Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing, the podcast for and with manufacturing leaders. I'm Mike and this is Trevor. We want you to join us on our journey as we help you gain new insights, moments of clarity, and self-awareness.
Hey, if you're willing to step outside of your comfort zone and uncover new perspectives to make your next day better, grab your coffee and let's go.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Mindfulness Manufacturing. Here today with Mike and JC Wilkinson in Louisville, Kentucky. JC started out as an accounting, into lean, and now is a transformational leader, VP here. And we're excited to talk to you today about your journey, JC.
Excited to be here.
Welcome.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Thank you.
So why don't we just start right away here? Listeners probably be interested on transformational. What does that mean? What are you transforming?
Well, it's really taking a company from, game-changing transformational breakthrough, which is tough to do. So it's trying to take to where do we want to be in the future? What matters most, what matters least, and looking at those things in terms of taking a company all across the board in terms of the processes, in terms of what's winning in 3, 4, 5 years and getting there. I think companies struggle with, here's what we want to do, we want to go, but the execution piece is really the challenge, and really putting resources behind that.
What's the hardest part?
Execution, by far. Execution is the biggest piece, and then you get back into what causes you not to execute, and that's really where it starts with people, leadership, because it all really starts there.
So for the people listening, how do you get the execution going? It's a people issue. You got to get them going. What have you found gets it going? What's the turnaround?
Like I said, it starts with the leadership team. Are they fully committed, devoted to what's going to be successful and not going to be successful? And that comes with sacrificing, sufferings, pains, and losses. But do you have the right alignment at your leadership team? Which comes very difficult discussions, very difficult decisions, to whether are you aligned in terms of what's winning on all levels when it comes to safety, people, quality, delivery, and cost, and growth. And so people is a big part of what we focus on.
So what's driven you to? So it's the people, and we get this with our space of mindfulness and the culture. So what's led you down here? Because you were definitely numbers, lean,
Mm-hmm.
but when I've talked to you, you talk people.
Yeah.
And is there something that happened through your career that really, maybe a mistake, just an event that happened that was significant that kind of pushed you and said, hey, we need to deal with this culture?
Well, I think it's, I started my career in public accounting, doing dorky accounting work. I'm a CPA by trade. And so doing that work for a decade, consulting with a lot of different manufacturing companies, I learned quickly that most companies I was working with didn't really care about the numbers, but they didn't just care about the end results. And I found myself...
Quick results.
Yeah. I found myself not really being able to advise my clients well without really understanding operations and manufacturing. So that's when I went off and got trained in APICS CPIM and learning how to do production scheduling, forecasting, inventory management, what's demand segmentation, what's the stuff they're talking about.
Yeah.
And so for me to really understand, obviously I was strong on the financial side, but I really wasn't nearly where I wanted to be on the operational side. So I just went off and started just educating myself technically on those things. And then I left public accounting, took a leap of faith, went to work for a client. That was kind of a job shop manufacturer as a CFO, and then helped out in operations there. That's where I started cutting my teeth in operations, doing more Six Sigma stuff. That's where I got my Greenbelt work there. And then I migrated to another company that was more of an outdoor power equipment company, doing their CFO and doing chief operating officer work there. And it was there when I started our lean journey. We went through a significant lean journey organization because we were getting helped hard with Chinese imports, be more competitive.
You had a reason to change.
Yeah, reason to change. And so we were getting hit hard by our customers. Selling into mass retail's cutthroat, very razor thin margins. So going through that really allowed me to focus on growth. Lean is a growth strategy, not a cost reduction strategy. And at the core of lean, going through all the Shingo work, you focus deeply on people, developing a culture that's empowered, engaged. And so that allowed me to focus on really, you have to get your leadership team right in order to get the company right. So that means you got to focus on yourself hard. And so that's when we started looking at the cultural scorecard and how do we measure the culture. And that became our number one measurement in our business, was our cultural score.
Number one
measurement was a cultural
Nice.
score. So we quantified our culture based off what's it mean to lead with humility. Okay, well, you can quantify that. We measured how many hours did our leadership team spend on the shop floor. So we require our leadership team to spend 8 hours on the shop floor every single month. And we track that. So that's leading with humility. So you're working side by side with the operators. Learn, go to the process, go to Gemba, and you learn this sucks.
Yeah.
I don't like bending over. I don't like doing this twist. I don't like doing this motion.
You learn something.
Yeah, so it's
sure.
let's fix this, let's correct this. Sometimes operators feel like, you have a Kaizen newspaper, you write stuff down, but sometimes they don't really tell you fully what you really need to know. So, one of our measurements was leading with humility. And so we required 8 hours on the shop floor every day.
Yeah, you don't hear that often, where you hear about leading with humility, but you don't hear anybody actually putting a measurement to it.
Right. So if you look at what's a culture, if you want a culture that's leading with humility, that respects all individuals, okay, how do you measure respects all individuals, right?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a development plan in place for every team members? Are you actually doing evaluations on time? Those are all leading
Nice.
indicators into, am I respecting this team member?
So did you create a dashboard like around culture?
Yeah, we create a dashboard around, we measure our cultural score just like a grade score in school. You're 72.5, you're an 81.3, where are you on the cultural score? And we identify what's the 1 to 3 things that we're going to do to get better at the cultural score. So that allowed us to identify, is it poor communication? Is it not having a good career progression plan for our team members? Is it a trust issue? Is it feedback? Just different aspects. And then we dig deeper into those questions in terms of, okay, we scored low in feedback in this area on this shift. Why? And quite honestly, a lot of it's leadership. It really comes back to leadership. So that goes back into training and developing people. Everything starts with people. And that's where it was extremely passionate for us to do that.
How did you come across the culture scorecard? Did you come up with that, or was it a suggestion from...
So I went to a training
else, or-
session on the Shingo. I went to the Northeast Shingo Conference up in, I forget, someplace in Massachusetts. And that was the first time I really got exposed to the Shingo prize process and outlined kind of like their program they used. And I was looking at their pyramid. I was like, you know what? We could make this into a scorecard. And so that's what we did.
That's
So
cool.
if this was, because if you go out to the Shingo Institute, you'll see their pyramid approach they have, which is spot on. Thinking systematically, voice the customer, quality and all those good things. Some of those things are very easy for manufacturers to measure, but the base of the pyramid is the foundations, people, which is, do you have a culture that leads with humility and that respects individuals? And some people just stop there. That's too warm, fuzzy, squishy. No, it's not.
Yeah.
If you really think about it hard,
Yeah.
you can quantify that. You want the leading things into that and track those. And so we did that every 6 months. We did a cultural scorecard to see are we winning or losing.
How does someone convince someone that's looking at the month-end results? How do you, when you speak to someone, what language do you use to get them to see that, hey, if you focus on this, you will have a better safety, quality, productivity?
Yeah, so I think it's kind of developing that cascading model, starting at the top in terms of, hey, here's our macro goals, right? So what's our pretty much the leading and lagging indicator. So if it's safety, it's recordables, right? So if it's a recordable, what's a leading and recordable? Near misses, unsafe acts or conditions. Growth, it's revenue. Revenue happens. Okay, what's my leadings into revenue? For quality, it's usually PPM or something like that. Okay, what's my leading into that? Is it quality issue tickets? Is it a certain test that you're doing? And so you establish that cascading effect down from the high level corporate level all the way down to the frontline operator in terms of this is how we're going to measure, because measurements drive mindset, and that linkage is really critical. But you have to create that visibility all the way through, so they know what's the end in mind. And so you're creating those leading and lagging indicators, so they know exactly, hey, what you're doing every day. If one of our chains is broken, we're not going to hit it. If you unleash the mental capabilities of your entire workforce, it's transformational. But they're not going to get there if you don't give them the vision, the roadmap of what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
So if you were to talk with one of your employees, they would understand the measurements and how they work and how they drive towards achieving the measurements?
Yeah, if you could clearly communicate that, and that creates a linkage on our SPQDC boards,
Sure.
which are safety, people, quality, delivery, and cost. So that ties back, and so they know that what are we doing at the cell level when it comes to safety and the people level in terms of cross-training and the skills metrics and things like that. That automatically creates that visual control back to them, that they're doing what they need to do. And as leaders, as area leaders, you're making those adjustments. You want to start with yourself, baseline yourself, target yourself, and then just get incrementally better from there. Don't try to benchmark yourself with someone else that you know you're not going to achieve to right away. So yeah, creating the linkage all the way through is important.
Here's what's different from typical manufacturers or clients that Trevor and I deal with. Measuring jobs per hour or strokes per minute.
Yep.
And say the automotive sector is predominantly where we're doing work. Those measurements drive a behavior that's not really conducive to a good culture.
Mm-hmm.
They're important, but when we talk about leading with humility, you're rare because we don't hear that type of language typically with the people that we interact with.
Right.
Which I think you're onto something.
Right.
Whether it's you're making widgets, car parts, whatever it is, that same methodology should apply.
Right.
So for the listeners, it's really important when you're driving into work and you think of the things that JC's talking about is look at your own measurables.
Right.
Ask yourself those questions.
Right.
When I think of humility, how do I quantify that?
Right.
Because most people don't.
Right. So if you look at in terms of, okay, if I want cost, I got to make sure I have good delivery. Doesn't matter what good delivery I have. If I deliver your crappy products, the quality is important. I'm not going to have anyone that's going to do quality delivery if I don't have P for people. It doesn't matter if I can't keep them safe.
That's right.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's why it's in that order. Safety first, people second, quality, delivery, cost. So for us, say what you do what you say. So if it's really critical that we put people and we actually behind it. Now, I see it happen a lot of times, and we do it ourselves, where we put delivery before quality. And that just naturally creates a sense of urgency. We got to get this product out, got to go on time. But we always have to be resident and say at the right quality. And some industries are easier than others to do that because of the forgiveness allowed or just the nature of the type of material you're dealing with, the industry you're kind of dealing with. But people is super critical because if you don't have the right people, you're going to spend yourself, and it's kind of a hidden cost of turnover, training, retraining, and that's the number of frustration you hear everywhere is I can't find people, can't track people, no one wants to work.
Yeah.
And they go to the common levers they pull, which is I'll pay more, or I don't spend time on, which is our number one most important process, which is our hiring process. They focus on the shop floor processes, but don't focus on what is, because that tells me a lot about the organization. What do you consider your number one process? And where's HR in your organizational chart? If it's not at the top, then that tells me a lot about your culture and what you value.
Yeah, show me how much you spend on training.
Yeah.
And I'll show you where your mindset's at.
Exactly. And then they don't realize how much it's costing them just to turn over. And, I mean, it's extremely expensive. And it creates frustrations for your team members that are constantly training. You're like, well, this person won't last 5 minutes. This person won't come back after the first break. So you have to ask yourself, how am I being respectful to my current team members that I'm asking to do this? And am I being respectful to my HR team, everyone else that's onboarding team members?
So how do you deal with turnover? If you've got if you're coming to a company that's looking for some help, has turnover, what's the first thing you're going to look at?
The first thing is more of a mindset of, am I treating my external customer more importantly than my internal customer? And that's where you start. If you say yes, then you're on the bad ship. Your internal customer comes first.
Yeah.
First and foremost. If you take care of your internal customer, they will naturally take care of your external customer. And so that's what, one of the books I came across in my consulting journey was The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. And that one really hit home. I've read a lot of Matthew Kelly's books just for personal growth. And I was reading the back cover of one of his books he read, and it said, New York Times bestseller, Dream Manager. It's like, how can I not have read his Dream Manager book? And it's not a new book; it's been around for 15 years. And so I read the Dream Manager book, and it was really impactful because it connected the personal why of team members, specifically manufacturing, to their why in terms of why they come to work day in day out. It's tough for I'm coming day to work and to making widgets. I don't really see how this is connected to my personal why. Why am I motivated and passionate to come into work when all I do is punch a clock and make widgets? versus if I work for the Mayo Clinic or the Cleveland Clinic, I can easily align myself with their mission and values because I'm actually saving lives and making a huge difference. So it's a common challenge for manufacturers, how to make that connection, that emotional connection to team members. But Matthew Kelly very simply walks you through a parable, which is actually kind of based off of a true story, of asking team members, what are your dreams? What do you aspire? It's actually a very simple question, but very, very impactful.
Have you asked it?
We have. So we actually incorporated that in our cultural survey.
Nice.
So we had two additional questions at the end of the cultural survey, which was, what are your dreams? And we gave examples. Is it home ownership? Is it putting your kids through college? Is it taking a dream vacation? Just to capture data, right? To see how we can help with people achieving their dreams. And the second question we asked was, what can the organization do to help you become a better version of yourself? So those are the two questions we asked. And we were astonished by the response we got and just the information we got back. A lot of it was very simple things that we can help our team members with. And so now we're in the process of creating a program that gives us the resources to, a lot of it's kind of like financial training. A lot of it is not financial training, but making a purposeful link between what they do here at work, how that connects with their personal life. Because you are who you are. You're not just magically walk through the door and flip a switch and say, now I'm going to be somebody different. Yeah. You are the same person in your personal life as you come in the door at work.
That's a good debate, though. Like, not everyone's going to agree with that. We talk to people in the fact of, I've got to show up as a different person at work, but that's not real.
It's not.
Yeah.
That's not authentic.
It's tough. You fake it.
Yeah.
It goes against your behavioral DNA.
And that takes a lot of energy.
It takes a lot of energy to do that. And so we just got really good data from that. And so we're in the process of outlining kind of our Dream Manager program, how we make that work here at our company.
That's awesome.
That is. So you think in terms of leadership, you mentioned leadership a few times. How do you keep them aligned, or how do you keep them consistent in the way they work with the shop floor team members?
Yeah, so I think a common challenge that I've seen and we have here is just managing through chaos every day and stress. Sure. It's a very common theme you hear is I'm fighting fires every day. And probably the number one tool that transformed my life was creating standard work for myself. Creating a daily, weekly, monthly standard work. Obviously there's standard work in terms of how to do a task, but standard work in terms of what do I really need to do every day, every week, every month. And so we established these are the, pick a number, 8 to 10 things that I need to do every day. If I don't do these 8 or 10 things, I know it's going to bite me and where soon. And so that forces you to assign the tasks as well as how much time does it take to do each one. Yeah. Does it take 30 minutes? Does it take 15 minutes? So like stand and observe. I want to spend 10 minutes every day just standing and observing a cell. Okay, 10 minutes, got it. And I spend 15 minutes doing praise and feedback to a team member. Okay, got it. If I don't put that down on my daily standard work board, guess what? That's probably not going to get done.
Yeah, is your day running you, or are you running your day?
Exactly.
You're taking control of your day.
Exactly. So,
Mike, have you ever heard anybody say, I don't have time to get on the shop floor?
Every day.
Every day.
Very common.
And so that brought clarity and control to a day of chaos for me, because I let my daily work set my calendar, because then what I did is I converted that to basically my calendar plan. From 8 to 8:15, I did my gimbal walk. From 8:15 to 8:30, I blocked out time where I gave myself time versus people just putting stuff on my calendar. Because I know if I got ahead of it doing these proactive things, I was naturally going to address stuff that they're actually scheduling meetings for me to be in. Now, don't get me wrong, there's always going to be times where you got fires or issues comes up, but that should be the abnormalities and not the normal. So we have area leader standard work. We have standard work in place for our leadership team, and we're cascading that and developing standard work for our team leaders.
Good.
How are they accepting that?
Good. Yeah, it's very good.
Why do you think
it's
that
new
is?
for them because it allows them to breathe. Before it's like I'm driving without a roadmap. I don't know where I'm going, but all I know is I did this yesterday. I'm just going to do it again.
You do it again. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep doing it again. So, but now it gives them a roadmap to know, hey, when I come in at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m., I know the first things I need to do. Yeah. And it's a simple flip of the card. Are you red or green? I start the day off reds. And I can visually walk to each of my team leaders and area leaders, and I can look at the board from probably 30 feet away And if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and their board's red, I'm gonna go talk to them and say, like, what happened today? Actually, you should be there probably about 10 in the morning and say, hey, you should be about 40% through your stuff today, and you're not there yet. That's where we come into play. Say, where are you drowning?
So is that your auditing process?
Yes, that's part of my standard work.
Sure. Yeah.
Is doing my walkabouts with my area leaders. Yeah. To say, how are you doing today? Are you where you want to be? And that just cascades down to the team leader. So when you get down to the shop floor operator, their daily work is mostly standard work in terms of how to do the task. So as you work your way up, you have less daily, I guess, task-oriented standard work, and more of how you spend your day. Because there's some functions I do on a weekly basis. Like I do my 3S audits on a weekly basis, but I got to make sure I get that on there, or else it's not going to happen.
So do you see, from a team member perspective, the guys and girls doing the standard work on the floor, that type of environment, do you foresee that inspiring them to want to take a leadership position?
Yes.
Some form of succession planning possibly internally?
Yes, absolutely. Because it gives them clarity of what skills and tasks are needed. But also it's good, they challenge you on how to make your tasks better.
That's good.
So it creates good and fosters good communication. Most important thing, it forces you to do things that you know you really need to do, but you just can't get to it. Or you feel bad about not getting to them. Like praise and feedback. That should be one of the first things you do.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you really put people first, the first thing we typically go to is what's on the desk that I know I've got to get this product out the door versus, am I putting delivery first? Am I doing what I say and say what I do? Versus, I'm going to spend 5 minutes with my team member and say, how was your night? How's things going? What can I do to help you be successful today?
The opposite of that, what we come across is pointing out what they're doing wrong rather than giving recognition of things that are right. So we create a culture of
pointer-outers.
Pointer-outers.
Who feels good about that?
Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. You go home feeling terrible and come in the next day and do the same thing over.
I don't know very many people who like to be lied to.
No.
And so, we have natural human instincts that just don't make sense, but we do them every day.
Yeah.
Which...
It's funny.
Yeah. Makes us think differently.
Going back to the promotional side, succession planning, in our experience, typically it's hard to get people to want leadership managed positions because of what they see.
Yeah.
But what you're providing is clarity and expectations going into the role.
Right.
And most times it's either a dollar figure that people look at and say, I'm getting maybe $2 more an hour, I want to go for it, but not really understanding what they're getting into.
Right.
And they fail at times.
And they see this. The more stress and chaos they see, the more like, I don't want that.
Yeah, I won't touch that.
No.
Nope.
Which then who suffers? The customer suffers.
They do.
Because the organization can't grow.
And then your culture gets impacted.
Exactly right.
Yeah, you're onto something.
And so the one thing we talk about on the shop floor, whenever there's some type of issue, we always try to bring it back to, how's this helping the customer? Please tell me how the customer is benefiting from this argument, this disagreement, this issue. And that really puts it back into perspective real quick.
Good.
Always coming back to the why, right?
Exactly.
For the listeners, you said Gemba a couple times.
Yeah.
We understand it, but maybe explain what Gemba means.
Yeah, so Gemba or improvement wall. Gemba just means go to the part. Go. It's Japanese for go where the work is being done. Put yourself in the process. So we do Gemba walks, but it's also called improvement walks. We call it Gemba, but yeah, that's what it means.
Good. So encourage more Gemba on the shop floor.
Exactly. Go and see first, understand.
Yeah. Very
Absolutely.
good. Very good.
Yeah, I mean that's just a separator in itself. Just you can see when you go into organizations, you can tell when the management's on the floor and when they're not.
Yeah.
Oh, it's obvious.
You can tell when you're your pulse in the business or not. In our business, we have quick turnarounds. Products moves fast. We don't have luxury of time, so we had to have a pulse check on stuff very quickly. And some days you feel like you are sprinting a lot. So you have to have the tools and training in place for that to. When you're sprinting, you got to figure out how to calm yourself down in a sprint. And some industries are that way, and we're just in that industry. We have very, very quick turnarounds in what we do.
So in terms of recruitment, people being your number one process, your hiring process, what do you look for in an employee?
Great question. So we look first for, we establish basically a criteria matrix in terms of the skills and behaviors that we're looking for. And then, so we weight each of those behaviors and skills, because if you could look forever for the perfectly right candidate, and that what slows down the hiring process is, you have to make some compromises. So we create a criteria matrix For the position, we create a role description, so we don't call them job descriptions, we call them role descriptions.
Nice.
That outlines the values, what is expected within the first 30, 60, 90 days. And we all do team-based hiring approach. So it gets out of the position of, well, here's what questions I asked, here's what I heard. It's a team-based approach where each person has specific questions they're asking. So your job may just be to facilitate the question. The other people are designed to listen, look for nonverbal feedback, verbal feedback. And then once the interview is done, we debrief and immediately fill out the criteria matrix. Did you hear, everyone's hearing the same story, and you walk out of it saying, so we actually quantify each candidate based off the criteria matrix. So it takes the I think, I feel, I believe out of it and puts numbers to it.
Sounds like you have an accounting background, JC.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's starting to show through a bit.
And then we do behavioral assessment on each candidate.
Good.
You can
Smart.
use different tools out there
Yeah.
to use. So we do that, and then at the end of the day, the hiring manager makes the decision. It's their baby to spank, so they just use the team. They use the team.
First time I've heard that. That's pretty good.
They
use that again.
Yeah, they use the team. The team's there to help guide them, but at the end of the day, there's got to be an owner to making the decision who to hire. So that goes from there.
Good. And it's working. Obviously, it's working for you.
We just launched that process. We probably did what most companies do: is you have 5 or 6 people wearing HR hats, and 5 or 6 people doing their own screening, their own interviewing. And that's not what we're getting paid to do. So we hired a very great HR team, and they're designed to owning the actual process.
That's awesome. So we'll come back and do another podcast in 6 months, and you'll be able to tell us how it's working.
Oh yeah,
If that's enough time. Yeah, sure.
Great.
Yeah,
it is. It is a journey. It's a commitment. Yeah, Mike and I just want to thank you, JC. It's rare to find someone with the technical mindset that you have that has such a deep respect for the people, and we're excited to see your transformation. And yeah, we do want to come back and share what your efforts are doing. That's the whole purpose of this podcast, is to share the learnings. We're all going to make some mistakes, but we try different things. You got to have a different mindset, different outside the box. I mean, you talk about in Kentucky here, what's the employment rate around here?
No, it's super low. I don't know what it exactly is, but it's really low.
Yeah, so it's a state that struggles, to keep people. They always say the best people that you have are the ones that are inside your 4 walls.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And you're doing some special things here. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. We're trying to create a culture where we have a waiting list of people who want to come work, and people banging on our door saying, "Hey, when you have an opening, you let me know."
That's awesome.
And that's what we aspire to do.
So you're providing mindfulness manufacturing. Lines right up to our podcast.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time. Much
Absolutely.
appreciated.
No, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time and joining us today. We had so much fun. Please remember to subscribe. It's free. Share it with colleagues. Look for our next episode in a couple weeks.
If you want to drive results, the first step is realizing how you show up.
That's the essence of mindfulness and manufacturing.